r/AskReddit. What's the stupidest thing you've done at a family gathering? Got drunk in front of my great grandmother and started to shit talk my entire family in a baby voice to my baby niece. While the entire family thought I was out of line, my great grandmother thought it was hilarious and that I had valid points. Examples? Well, I had an aunt who would foster kids, but it was only for the money, and she would specifically go after the developmentally challenged so that she could manipulate them into little servants for her. That same aunt was also crazy religious and refused to let her kids own CDs cause that was the devil's music. My cousin, who was hosting said event, was bragging about her weight loss, which she had cosmetic surgery for. But she was framing it as she works out all the time. She didn't, and ate right. She would be at fast food at least once a day. My grandmother played favorites her whole life and only cared about the firstborn grandkids. She was financially supporting my brother, firstborn male, who is a deadbeat dad to 6 kids, not sure his running total at that time. My entire family pretty much excludes any stepkids from the family and sees them not as a real part of it. Oh, and the one that set me off was after my favorite great grandmother's death, which I was away in basic training so missed the funeral. Her possessions had been divided up and certain heirlooms were supposed to be mine. Sentimental things that had unique significance to our relationship. I saw one of these items sitting on a shelf in my cousin's bathroom broken. There are a few others, but I don't remember due to, as I said, being drunk. My cousin. Sweet Home, Alabama. I inadvertently went to a strip club with my parents when I was 22 years old. My mom had been ordering pizza from the new bar down the street and was raving about it one night, so we decided to go check out the new restaurant and try their pizza, just me and my parents, instead of having it delivered. As soon as we pulled into the parking lot, my spidey senses went off, as I knew this place was known for having some seedy people hanging around, and it's always been some sort of strip club. But I thought, no way, my dad would know if it was a strip club. He's gotten pizza from here several times now. I couldn't have been more wrong. That voice in my head was telling me to turn around and run as soon as we parked, and 2 men were standing at the door sharing a pretty raunchy story with all sorts of lovely details as we walked up. We walked in the door, and as soon my family entered, it went silent. Every waitress and bartender stopped and looked at us. The strippers even stopped and stared at us. I turned to my dad, and before I could say anything, my mom says it's a strip club. My dad, being the stubborn man he is, says I don't care, I want pizza. Never in my life have I heard of a strip club even selling pizza, let alone offering delivery. We sit down. I strategically placed myself so my back is to the strippers, and we place our order. 45 long painful minutes waiting for our pizza and having small talk while 2 very overweight, out of shape homely girls take off their tops. Thankfully that's all they took off. Danced a few feet behind us. My mom finally asks where our pizza is, and the waitress comes back and tells us she forgot to put in the order. That was the last straw for my mom, who quickly paid the tab, and we left hungry and scarred for the rest of our lives. We still laugh about the day we went to a strip club together for pizza. They shut down a few weeks later, so I never did get to try the amazing pizza my parents raved about. Got absolutely hammered the night before and passed out in a snowdrift at the family snowmobile party. Fell off my sled and just laid there waiting for death to take me. Death took too long, so I got up and went back to the group. I'm pretty sure my dad knew what was up and felt that slogging around in the snow all day might teach me not to do that again. He was right. Haven't gotten out of control drunk since Christmas of 1995. In my defense, I have epilepsy and was having a partial aura/mini seizure which caused this. I go into the kitchen and a few cousins are standing there with my aunt. I say sandwich I think, but my brain was literally just reset about 20 seconds ago and I'm operating at an ultra dumb level. I remember this primarily because there was aftermath to recollect. I took mayo out of the fridge and just throw a spoonful, I think, at the fridge. I then take out cheese and throw it on the mayo, followed by turkey at the ground and bread somewhere. I look at it and just walked away. My family did not know I had epilepsy at that point in time. That was the icebreaker. I was with a friend, Dennis, at his family reunion. He sees his cousin arrive with a friend in tow. My friend greets his cousin he hadn't seen in years with, "Hey Joe, you crazy cocksucker." His guest gets in Dennis's face very hostile about his phrasing. Dennis pretty much greeted everyone as a cocksucker, but the other guy insisted there were better ways of saying it. Nobody knew the cousin was gay before that, and in a small town it was a hell of a way to come out. Not me but my dad, as a kid, took a shit in the fireplace and went around bragging about it. My grandma still brings it up to this day. I was home from college on break and we were playing Trivial Pursuit. The question to me was something along the lines of what adult movie actress has the last name that sounds like the last name of the star of Hawaii 5-0? I knew the Hawaii 5-0 star was Jack Lord, thought about it for a minute, then blurted out Tracy Lords. My parents just looked at me like I had just produced a severed head from my pocket. Something similar happened to me while playing You Don't Know Jack with my cousins. Question asked which of these was a male porn star or not. I don't remember. Someone used the item to force me to answer and I had to guess. I guessed correctly. Defiantly some odd looks, especially since not of us were adults and I was the youngest. One Christmas, my family gathered at Gram's for dinner. One of my cousins brought a karaoke machine. This turned into everyone participating. But not just participating, being made to pick a song and sing and dance in front of the rest of the family. Horrifying. So many terrible vocalists attempting to win a Grammy. So I'm paired with my cousin, brother, and uncle. We decide to pick something easy. I don't recall what, but it was an upbeat does not require vocal talent type of song. As we sing, we are kinda throwing up hand signs as we are going. Well, my hands don't exactly cooperate, and I end up throwing 2 giant middle fingers up. I died a bit inside when I look over and see an aunt is recording. My awkward childhood, immortalized forever. I ruined Thanksgiving because I was too high. I've shared this story before, but when I was a teenager I got a weed brownie from my dealer. I had never had an edible before, so I was super excited. I decided to eat it before Thanksgiving, that way I would have a nice high and all this good food to eat. He warned me that it was strong and to only eat half of it. I ate the half, and after like 15 minutes I wasn't feeling anything, so I decided to eat the other half too. I didn't know that with edibles it takes a while to kick in, and wasn't instant like smoking. By the time dinner came by I was very stoned, like too much for my own comfort. My aunt and uncle were there too along with my little cousin, who was like 4 at the time. I went upstairs to join my family and thought I could keep it together long enough for a quick dinner and nobody would be the wiser. That was not the case. I was so stoned that I could not look at anyone, so I just awkwardly stared at my food and gave one-word answers when my family tried to talk to me. It made things incredibly uncomfortable for everyone. After about 15 minutes I could not take it anymore, so I just picked up my plate and went downstairs to my room. My mom followed me and wanted to know what the hell was wrong with me. I admitted to her that I ate a weed brownie and was incredibly stoned and asked if she could just leave me alone because I was too high to deal with things right now. She was cool about it and waited until I came down from the intense high to yell at me about ruining Thanksgiving dinner. A few Christmases ago my family got me a taser before my move to a big city. It looks like a little plastic gun and you have to put a pre-packaged disposable bullet, the little prongs that shoot out, and shock the bad guy into the end for it to work. That was obvious. What was less obvious was that, without the bullet, a taser will still work as an old-fashioned stun gun, which you can just poke at a bad guy and shock with direct contact. I grew up with guns. I know they're harmless if you're careful to make sure they're unloaded, including the chamber, if the gun has one. My family's given each other real guns for Christmas many times, always in a safe condition. I thought this non-lethal weapon was pretty simple, so while demonstrating the empty taser without the bullet inserted on what I thought was a safe weapon, I managed to shock the ever-loving shit out of my hand with its backup stun gun functionality. My gay brother tried to start a fight with our pastor uncle about gay marriage at our father's funeral. He kept asking, "I bet you'd never marry, officiate, one of my kind." He tried more than once after the uncle refused to engage and walked away. It was incredibly awful, and I'm still pissed about it almost 10 years later. I was at a Christmas Eve dinner with some acquaintances while living in a foreign country. Made the mistake of asking the granddaughter why she was vegetarian at the dinner table, which was loaded with the traditional meaty dishes of the country, painstakingly made by her grandmother. There were also plenty of veggie dishes. I did not realize how bad it would get. I was mostly plant-based myself, and all the vegetarians I had met up till then were very diplomatic. I have never regretted a question so fast. Took an edible before walking into the gathering. Was probably the most likable and social version of myself. It was awful cause then they expected me to be like that at all of the following ones, and that's just not realistic, as the gay cousin of our traditional Christian family showed up in costume with my then significant other, also in costume. We had come straight from another thing where it actually made sense to be wearing them. The scheduling was really tight and he insisted it would be totally cool, even appreciated, if we showed up as we were instead of changing. It wasn't, lol. People just kept asking, "But why are you wearing that?" So fucking awkward. I hit on my cousin not knowing she was a cousin. I'm part of a really big family. I went to a quinceanera before one of my cousins met this beautiful girl. Her and I were flirting pretty hard back and forth when my mom walks up. "Oh good, you met Anna, she is your second cousin from your cousin Rita's marriage." I know some might say second cousins are different, but not in my family. Luckily my mom noticed and warned us as things were getting hot and heavy. A few knowing uncles and cousins were nudging each other. We were both pretty embarrassed and unsuccessfully played it off that we were just joking around. We did become really good friends still after that. No weirdness and its definition a funny joke between us now. Took acid the night before our NFL football game with the grandparents. Half hour after my friend and I took it, I thought it was junk and we went back to my house to crash. Then somehow we ended up in the bathroom staring at the floor till 4 AM. Slept for maybe 2 hours, and by that I mean the head of every person I'd ever met was flying through the air at me and would veer off at last minute. Thought I was okay on way to game, just tired. Then at halftime my grandma asked me if I was okay. I was like, yeah, why? Apparently I hadn't said one word or made one noise the entire first half, which is very odd for me. And here I thought I was cheering the whole time. Walked 2 blocks to a bar with the entire wedding party and my family from a cousin's reception, my mother included. At some point she was ready to leave. I walked her back to the hotel and made sure she got into her room. I decided to walk back. For one, I didn't know what time it was, and for two, drunk me took forever to make it back to the bar. Arrive back at the bar. Nobody is there except for staff that are closing up. Sit on the curb outside the back of the bar and pass out. Wake up being slapped in the face by a police officer. It was 3 AM. I had been passed out in a parking lot for at least an hour and a half, and I got driven back to the hotel by a police officer. Hard plastic backseat in the squad car. I carry pants on, gun on, and my father is the same way. My uncle, not so much. We were at a family gathering, and said uncle walks up with a teenage cousin and his girlfriend in tow. The uncle says, "See, we are perfectly safe here," and he tries to raise my shirt and take my weapon. Acting on pure muscle memory, I drove my palm into his sternum, and he turned away out of breath. I'm not an outspoken person, not one for attention, and this caused a bit of an issue with some family. Remember to smash that like button and subscribe.